Welcome to Finding Certainty with your host and U.S. Army veteran, Patrick Laing. Over the next hour, you'll learn from Patrick and his expert guests how to attract more certainty into your business and your life. Now, here is your host, Patrick Laing.
Welcome to Finding Certainty. Hope your Friday morning is treating you as well as it is us. Very pleased to have my good friend and mentor, one of my business colleagues, and also really an icon in the industry I look up to so much, Mr. Bill Hoffmann, with us here on Finding Certainty this morning. Bill, thanks for being here.
Well, I'm glad to be on here. I mean, Patrick, anytime I get a chance to chat with you, and we get to talk sometimes really often, and other times we go months without because we're so darn busy, but I just enjoy it. And I guess it's morning where you're at and just turned afternoon for me. So we're good.
Well, I feel the same way. I think the last time we were together in person was down in Dallas. We went down for a conference and went to dinner at Ruth's Chris. And yes. You even picked up the tab, Bill. So I've been in debt ever since. I appreciate that.
Well, it was a good time. You got to meet Andrea. And we got to spend some good time. It was, it's important because, and those are some nice things that you said, mentor and entrepreneur and things like that. But the truth is, it's all about, at the end of the day, it's how we keep score, is how we make money, right? That's kind of how we keep score. But the truth is, it all comes down to memories, experiences, relationships. All those things are really the more important things, because the Pharaohs kind of prove that we don't get to take it with us, right? So we might as well enjoy those nice dinners at Ruth Chris.
That's right.
Build those relationships and then grow it from there. And then along the way, hey, those relationships can turn into great business relationships and turn into some other ways that we can help a lot of people.
100%. I say all the time, you never see a hearse pulling a U-Haul on the way to the cemetery, right? So I think it all comes down to friends and family and relationships and experiences, right? And we were joking before the show that I was telling our sound engineer Jordan about how I've only had the same guest on Finding Certainty, I think 2 times, maybe 3 times, but so this is the second time I've had Bill on my show, just because there was so much to talk about. We only got through a portion of it the first time, and he was on about a year ago, and been wanting to have you back on ever since, Bill. So I know how busy you are, man. Thanks for making the time to be here with us this morning.
Again, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on with your company and ours, and some of the synergies we're having now. I always start out the show by sharing 2 reasons why I've invited this specific guest. And in Bill's case, Bill he stands out for me in many ways. I talk about him being a mentor to me. I talk about him being an icon in the industry. But what really stands out for me when it comes to Mr. Bill Hoffmann is he is a consummate networker. I mean, he starts talking about relationships. He has relationships that go back decades, and he doesn't forget them. He maintains them. He's just like a resounding example to me of someone who's really good at maintaining and building and developing relationships. And then the second thing is that he is a business, what's the best word? Maybe business, just, I said icon before, but I think a magnet. You're a business phenom is maybe a better word, Bill, because you're constantly looking at ways to do business better and to improve systems for your clients. You do that with your merchant processing business, with your food delivery business. You're doing it now with what we call the corporate benefits initiative, all of which we're going to talk about today. But I think you just have a knack for improving upon things, improving systems, helping take your clients to the next level. And in the process, creating extraordinary residual incomes for yourselves, your companies, and your affiliates. And I think that's something a lot of people would love to understand more. That's why I had you back today, to try to dig into that topic a little bit more and peel back the layers. And let's talk about how you're doing it, maybe some ways that others can either be involved or at least learn from that example. So how's that for an intro?
Well, it's a lot, but here's what I will say. You know, there's kind of two schools of thoughts that are taught out there. One is have multiple streams of income. That is kind of the newer, fresh. But there was a time when, like my grandfather said, if you chase more than one rabbit, you won't get any of them, right? And there's some validity there too. In other words, my core business is the credit card processing business. That allows me the niceties where I live, the vacations, the cars I drive, the kids' educations, all those types of things. That's allowed me to do that. But it's also allowed me to layer up other residual incomes, because I'm not known for too many quotes, but there's one quote I say: residual income is the eighth wonder of the world, right? I mean, it is. There is something about it. You don't have to have $1 million or make $1 million to live like you make $1 million if you have a residual income, right? I mean, that's especially as we speak to people that are in their 50s or 60s that might have had some just things happen in their life that didn't go their way. The odds that they're going to accumulate millions of dollars by the time retirement, if that's such a word, because I don't think I'll ever retire, come their way, probably not a good idea or a good plan. But could they build a residual income? And that's what my business partner and I have done for the past 24 years in the credit card processing. Then, of course, we added the Zen delivery. Why? We saw a huge problem. Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub charging a lot of money to these restaurants. It's become a way, the only way a lot of restaurants can stay in business. 40% of their revenue comes from deliveries. That's a big number. And that's happened in the last decade. And they're getting charged 30% from those big three. So we came in and offer a low cost, $2 to $4. So on a $50 order, instead of only getting 35, they get 48 from us, right? And we still handle all the deliveries. We do all that stuff. But more importantly, we pick up the credit card processing on that order. So see, that added to that layering effect, right?
Right.
And then, of course, we've added a lot of different businesses over the years, but some stick and some don't. That's another thing I think that people got to understand is that, you know, sometimes you can be the smartest, you can be the best, you can do it, but it just didn't work out. Long distance. I was in that years ago. Well, now we pick these darn phones up and we can dial anywhere in the world. There is no such thing as long distance. So you gotta be willing to understand that change is something that's going to happen too. So now we've added this CBI, which is Corporate Benefits Initiative, which I think is just a natural fit to our core business because we deal with businesses. Yeah. And I'm super excited about it. And I'm really excited that you and your team, because, you know, everybody knows of you with your radio show and everything. I mean, that's, you know, your millions of people get to see this, right? But not everybody knows the infrastructure you have and the amount of dedicated leaders that you have on your team that work with you. And key word, nobody works for me. They work with me. Right. I always want everybody, even our W-2 employees, I look at them as they're working with me. You know, it's their choice, and I want to make it's a good choice for them. But you guys got a heck of a team, and you know, you do some really big things. And of course, when we bring stuff to you, if it makes sense, we're really glad that you, as an agency, jump right on board with it.
Well, you hit on a really important point, I think, Bill. Talk about this quote that residual income is the eighth wonder of the world. And I agree. You know, whether you call it beach money or mailbox money or passive income or whatever, you can, if you have a $10,000 a month residual coming, that's like having $1 million in the bank, hanging at 10% interest. right? Most people, it's going to take them years to accrue $1 million in savings. They can create $1 million residual, a $10,000 a month residual in no time, depending on the business that they choose and the effort they put into it. You also mentioned that, I mean, we've all heard the quote that if you understood residual income, you would go through a wall to get it.
Yes.
Right? I have friends, yourself and others like you, a good friend of mine named Marlon Dubetz, who he earns tens of thousands of dollars a month. He lives on a ranch in the middle of Iowa. He hunts and fishes most of the time and speaks, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a year now at events. And he lives the dream life, right? A life that most people only fantasize about. So I do want to get into each of the 3 businesses, but before we do, and I'm not going to go into your background as much because we did that on the first session. Anyone who's listening, if you'd like to understand Bill's background, go back and listen to the earlier interview we did. And I have the link in the bottom here of the episode description. But maybe just in 60 seconds, you can tell people how you got to what you're doing today.
Well, my dad worked at DuPont, so I wasn't raised with that attitude of entrepreneurism. And I went in the insurance business. I liked it right out of college, and somebody invited me to a meeting, and they started drawing circles on a board. This is long before PowerPoints and all that other stuff. And I remember just seeing those circles and then seeing leverage. And it was through a direct sales company. And I went over to my mom's house. My dad had passed away since then. And I said, Mom, I figured out how I'm going to get wealthy. I'm going to get rich. Now, the definition at 21 years old is different of rich back then. But I went, I know how I'm going to do this. I'm going to leverage myself. I hadn't read all the great books by Tony Robbins or Jim Rohn or Les Brown yet. But I said, I
got the vision,
leverage.
Right?
Yeah, I got the vision. And she goes, well, what do they sell? I go, circles. I didn't remember anything that
I don't even know.
they were doing. I just saw a business model that allowed me to empower other people. See, I didn't look at it as like I'm making money off them. I'm giving them a chance to make money. And of course, I get a little piece of the pie. And it's worked out fabulous. That was 41 years ago. Now,
amazing.
I've done lots of stuff outside of the direct sales world, but I'm going to tell you something. What most people don't get, they don't understand, is the self-improvement, the empowerment that it gave me, the tools it gave me to do all the other things that I've done in life came from that industry. And I will always speak favorable, whether I'm involved in it directly or supporting it in our processing side or doing whatever. I speak nothing but it's been the greatest blessing outside of my faith and my children and stuff like that. It's been just an amazing, amazing blessing.
Well, you have a unique perspective when it comes to, specifically the direct sales industry, because you've been an executive, you've been involved on the leadership side or distributor side. You're also a vendor for that industry. You do the merchant processing for most, if not all of the network marketing companies out there.
A lot of them.
And so you are looking at this industry from multiple different angles. You've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. You've seen the positives. I agree with you, though, whether it's direct sales or affiliate sales or just traditional sales, working for an organization, I think working in that arena forces you to grow. Yeah, it forces you to stretch. We've all been through good and bad experiences, good and bad employers, and good and bad relationships. But just the act of putting yourself out there and trying to move to the next level and trying to become better at what you do, I really believe that salespeople and direct sales professionals and others, in many respects, grow more than others in other industries. I look at friends of mine that are accountants and lawyers and doctors, and I just feel like, man, I have so many more people skills than you do. I've grown so much more in the last 30 years than you seem to have. You're still the same guy I knew in college. And I don't know. I don't say that to sound arrogant, but I just really believe that if you are in that in that arena, you invariably become more than you were the day before.
Well, you are what you are, who you hang out with, right? I mean, that is
true.
And through osmosis, whatever you want to call it, it permeates into your body, and then you start thinking that way and looking at different things, so on. So yes, I love it.
Yeah. So it's I think about that a lot, though. Well, not only can you earn even more income in sales and direct sales and with residual income streams than the highest paid professionals out there, right? More than any doctor or lawyer or accountant or engineer. But I do think you grow it. So it's a kind of a dual-sided benefit. But as you look at, and we're coming up on our first break already, but as you look at your career, what has been the number one benefit besides the income and the relationships and the growth? Is there one benefit, or maybe let's say one characteristic that you feel like you've gained in the process that you value above all others?
Well, I'll tell you what it's done for me, because with the great success, there's been some failures. Sure. But unlike my uncle's days, when Dana closed down in our hometown, that was a big corporation, his life was over because that's all he knew, right? And there wasn't another thing that could replace that. I knew that I had built these skill sets that even though long distance went away, I just went into the next business that excited me, and I was able to pick up where I was going. So I had the tools, I had the training. I was that Navy SEAL, or whatever way you want, whatever analogy you want to look at. It didn't matter. And I learned that no doesn't hurt you. The word no. In fact, I'd much rather hear someone tell me no than give me a maybe. Now we're looking for the yes.
Think about it, right?
Yeah, I don't want to think about it, right? I know, just okay. That's great. I'm moving on to the next person. I'll come back to you, at some point, but I'm going to move on to the next person. So I think that's the greatest characteristic it's given me, is that I'm okay no matter what.
I love that. I would agree. We learn the ability to pivot and to recalculate. Right. Water off a duck's back, as I say.
Yes.
And you have to be in sales. But I think if it's a really important skill set to learn in life, with marriage and parenting and everything. Right. So anyway, we are up against our first break. I always say this, the hour flies by. We're going to go to break real quick. And then when we come back, we're going to just quickly cover each of the three businesses you heard Bill mention. The IPOP sales is merchant processing. We're going to talk about Zen delivery, and we're going to talk about the corporate benefits initiative, or otherwise what we call CBI. So don't go away. We're visiting with Bill Hoffmann, and we will be right back.
Follow Voice America at facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts.
Certainty Management can help create more certainty in your life with our deep discount health insurance options, even for 1099s, part-time employees, volunteers, and more. Pay less to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your team. Call 888-684-3122 for a free quote today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, TEAM, like Mary.com.
Have you become a member yet? Sign up now to become a member of Voice America. It's always free and easy. Plus, you get to take advantage of some great member benefits. Get unlimited access to millions of hours of on-demand content across all of our channels. Keep track of your favorite episodes, shows, and hosts in your own customizable library. Find out what shows you might be interested in based on your favorites. Plus, you get insider access with our newsletter. Membership gives you more. Sign up at voiceamerica.com and click register at the top right.
If you're a nonprofit in need of funding, we can help. Certainty Management is a cost reduction firm that also helps churches, schools, sports teams, and other nonprofits raise unlimited zero-cost funding. Best of all, you don't have to sell anything or ask for donations. Call 888-684-3122 to learn more today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, Team, like Mary.com.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You are listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Laing. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Welcome back to Finding Certainty. We're visiting with Bill Hoffmann. He's the owner, founder of iPop Sales and Crossfire IQ. I know you have partners, but you're the founder, right? Is that safe to say?
Yeah, yes, I am. My partners handle all the operation side of that. You know what I'm saying? And I couldn't do it without them, right? That's all.
Absolutely.
There would be none of this if it wasn't for them. So, but my job is to go out there and find it, bring it to the table, and then we figure out how to make it work.
Understood. You know, we were talking before the break about, you mentioned earlier how no one really has experiences success in sales without going through some failure. We try and we fail, we try and we fail. Some things work, some things don't. And yet you learn not only what works and what doesn't, you learn good and bad approaches, you experience growing pains, as it were, finding good and bad relationships, et cetera, but you develop resilience in the process. I think we become wiser in the process too. But I also think we become more emotionally intelligent. That's a topic we've been talking a lot about on the show in the last few weeks. And it's the ability to see things and view them in a healthy way. When somebody says something about you, when you get rejection, you don't take it personally. You don't let it throw you off your game. You know, my guest last week was talking about how she coaches and consults CEOs on how to develop more emotional intelligence in their careers because it trickles downhill to their people and their families and so forth. And she said she's taught her grandchildren and her children to think of an insult as a green frog. And let me explain what I mean. She says if someone tells you you're stupid or that's a dumb idea or what are you thinking? It's easy for us to think, well, maybe they're right. Maybe this product really isn't worth selling, or maybe I am on the wrong track or something. But she said if you immediately think of it as they just said you're a green frog, then you think, what are you talking about? I'm not a green frog, right? And it's just a little trick to remind yourself that what others say says more about them than it does about you, right?
Yes.
Just because they say something doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't even mean there's any truth to it. And the green frog is a great example of that. Bill, you're a green frog. You're like, what the hell are you talking about? Yeah. I thought it was just a really simple but a powerful reminder for how to keep our mindset straight and deal with rejection and so forth and so on. So
I like that because somebody else's opinion of you isn't who you are. It's just their opinion. Right?
It is.
So, but I like the green frog thing because it's, it allows us to put it in a different perspective and go, oh, okay. We don't have to intelligently grab it down there. We just go, oh, a green frog. Okay, gotcha. From it. And one of my favorite sayings ever was, nothing's ever as good as we think it is, nor is it as bad. And if you kind of keep that thought pattern, it really it allows you not to get upset when someone pulls out in front of you, right? I mean, even though you might be in a hurry, at the end of the day, they didn't hit you. You know what I'm saying? So we don't know what they're going through, right? And that's how I always look at things. I go, could have been worse, could have been better, whatever.
I like that. That's really good.
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence really comes down to perspective. It comes down to reminding yourself of that. It could be worse, could be better. Reminding yourself of the fact that you don't know what's going on with that person. You're not in their shoes. Maybe they're on the way to the hospital. Maybe they're dealing with some pain that you don't know about. I mean, we have a mutual friend. I won't say his name, but he's got a short fuse. He blows up at a lot of people. He's damaged a lot of relationships. There are people on my team who refuse to work with him anymore. I think you know who I'm talking about, but I try to remind myself he is dealing with a lot of pain. He had a terrible upbringing, and I try to take him with a grain of salt. And when you can have perspective about someone, you may decide to distance yourself and have boundaries. You may even remove them from your life, but it changes how you view your interactions, and it gives you more empathy and compassion. It changes a lot if you can remember that perspective. So anyway, we could do a whole topic,
Yes.
a whole interview on that topic, but let's get into your businesses, because I want everyone to hear just 3 examples of how you're building residual income, how it's blessing your customers. We've got maybe 3 or 4 minutes to just highlight each one, and we'll have another break, and then we'll wrap it up at the end. So why don't you start with IPOP? Because that is, and just so you know, I just recently learned that IPOP stands for something.
Yes.
There's
in pursuit of perfection.
In pursuit of perfection. I love that. And I had no idea until just recently that was the definition. So I know it's the foundation. You talked about how it's everything else is kind of built upon that. Do you mind just explaining what it is you do and how you do it?
So anytime somebody swipes their card, it has to go through a few different mechanisms. It has to go through a processor. It has to go through the exchange. Visa, MasterCard's involved, and so is a bank. So what somebody told me 24 years ago was, Bill, you need to get in between the money. And I didn't know what they were talking about. And I said, tell me more. And it turned out he was the senior vice president of Chase Manhattan Bank on their merchant processing. And he shared it with me. And then he and I developed a relationship, and I decided I was going to get involved. And so what we do is we just go to businesses, and a couple different things we offer. One, I can lower their costs no matter what, because the cost from the bank and Visa, MasterCard is the same for everybody. So the only difference in the cost factor is the margin. So my question is, do I want the customer? If I want the customer, I can just take a little bit less than what they already have, and then give them great service, explain some things for them, maybe throw some fraud protection stuff. Because what happens is a lot of times salespeople come and go in the industry, right? So they sign up a customer, and then that customer never sees anybody ever again. Whereas we have at least once every 6 months, we reach out to them, whether it's just a phone call. We just find out if there's anything going on that we need to help them with. A new terminal, I do this, I do that, just as a thing. Of course, they get emails from us, but our staff is going to call them up and just say, hey, just want to, first of all, thank you for being one of our customers. And I just want to make sure everything is still operating and your expectations are still being hit. And is there anything I can do for you? And then you would be surprised. Somebody goes, I'm opening up another store. I'm over doing this. And they didn't think about calling me. They were just going to call whoever was in the, maybe it's a different town or something like that. So by us just doing that, we get that business. You want to stay in front of your clients.
Right.
And
talking about relationships, right? Talking about maintaining relationships. So much of it just comes down to consistency and staying in touch.
And with technology, you get little tickler files that come up and say, oh, just like I got a reminder an hour before, and then 20 minutes before, then 10 minutes before, so that in case something was going on in my life, that I wouldn't forget my call with you today, right? So in other words, we can set those things up in your business, and you should, because the more prepared you set your business up, the more you set up these contacts to go out there and talk to somebody, it makes you look better. I'm going to use this as an example, a little trick for you guys. We don't really notice when our wives or our significant others go and get their hair cut, unless they do something totally different. It comes in red or something, or they've shaved it all off or something, So whenever Andrea tells me I'm getting my hair done, I say, oh yeah, what day is that? And I put it in my phone so that when she comes home, I get a reminder and then I look for the change, because we're not as attuned as guys to notice, because she does it every 6-8 weeks anyway. So there isn't this drastic change that she went from this to this. And then I'm able to say, wow, I like that, what they did today. Or I like, oh, your hair's looking really good. In other words, it's not manipulation.
You're revealing your secrets here, Bill. That's a good one.
I think it's
marital advice from Bill Hoffmann.
There you go. So it just works and it makes it better. But you can use all these tools that they have that are all free that you can just do. So the bottom line is, or the other thing we can do, it's becoming very, very popular. Went all the way to the Supreme Court, our company, 14 years ago, to do the surcharge or the cash discount. In other words, the charges don't get charged to the merchant, but get charged to the cardholder, because they're the ones getting all the points. And it took us a decade to get to 1% of the market. And since then, so 14 years, 10 years just to get to 1%, it's now approaching 17% of all businesses now use the surcharge or cash discount where the cardholder pays the fees. So they get 100% of their dollar. So if it's a $100 charge, they get $100 of it. The cardholder pays $103 because they pay for the processing fees and the merchant fees and so on and so on. Right. So it's a great thing. It's a great business. And there's still 83% of the market that needs this surcharge market program. And again, Bill,
it's a residual, right? Your salespeople, they tell a customer once, and they're getting paid month after month after month, right?
Yes. And we just added something. I think this is important to add to this caveat. All these dispensaries, they can't take credit cards. And it's growing. I mean, I think that there's 26 states now that you can go in there and buy the cannabis, right? Both whether it be for health or whether it be for recreation. Well, they can't accept credit cards because it's not federally deregulated or approved yet, right? So we've developed a platform. When somebody goes in, they actually are purchasing crypto. And in the same process, then the page pops up. I mean, it stays on the same page. It's seamless. They don't have to put in a KYC. They don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. And they purchase the crypto. And then it says, complete your order, and the crypto automatically pays for the cannabis. And
interesting.
It happens like that. They're not waiting, they're not anything like that. And of course, it is because of the unregulated crypto side of this things, right? It's not, it's actually going off into some wallet that nobody knows where, what, how that all that stuff works, right? But the bottom line is
compliant, and it's not going to get regulated. It's not going to get, et cetera. I understand. That's actually a pretty good idea, Bill.
That has been growing like crazy. We are so busy on that side that it's going crazy. So the bottom line is, it's another way to build that residual income, helping a client who now doesn't have to store $2 million in their store every day or every month, right? That's a serious, scary thing for these dispensaries.
Right.
Yeah.
So before we get to the next break, you talked earlier about how the merchant processing is blending with the restaurant delivery business. Take just a minute or two and explain Zen Delivery. We've got about 4 minutes till the next break. Let's get into that one. We'll end up with CBI after the second break.
You got it. Zen Delivery is a delivery service, just like Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub. You can go to the Zen Delivery app. It's on Google and on Apple. And if a restaurant's in your area, you place the order, it's going to come just like the same way as Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub. The difference is for the restaurateur. See, Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub look at the customers as their customers, not the restaurants. We look at the customer as our restaurant, and it's their customers. So pricing-wise to the customer doesn't change much. What does change is how much the restaurants get to keep of the food cost, because we're only charging $2 for a $50 order, and Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub charges 30%, so that's $15. And we get we handle the processing that's done on the app or the menu board, so that processing comes back to us.
You know, when I first heard about Zen Delivery through our friend Frank Hellring, who's you've known for several years,
Yep.
I was blown away by the idea, because not everybody knows this, but the delivery services out there have done more damage to restaurants than good. You think you're helping them by ordering your food through DoorDash or something, getting it sent to your house, but the costs are so high, it's literally put businesses out of business, many restaurants out of business, or they're losing money by having to deliver food and pay as high a price as they do.
It's just cash flow to them. That's the only, they're not making any money on it. Most restaurateurs go, I'm doing it because it keeps my employees busy.
But they're not getting ahead, right? They're
not
not
getting
making
ahead on it, no.
profit. And so in comes Zen Delivery and says, let's create a structure that's win-win for everyone but these parasite delivery companies. Let's create where the customers pay no more, but we keep the restaurants that they love strong and safe and in business and continuing as a mainstay in their neighborhoods. Nobody wants to see a restaurant that they like go out of business, right?
Absolutely.
And these multi-billion-dollar delivery companies, they're so greedy, I guess is the best word for it, not to be too adversarial or critical, but they're greedy, right? And they're overcharging these restaurants for this service. The restaurants that learn about Zen Delivery, I know because we've talked to them, they are so happy to hear about what you're doing. I mean, they're just ecstatic about Zen Delivery. So we've got
they are, and I know we're coming up.
I mean, what else can you add in 30 seconds?
Well, I'll tell you this. The only thing we're missing on Zen Delivery is the number of customers on it, right? We'll keep adding the restaurants because they do spend billions of dollars on Super Bowl ads. We're not going to do that. We're going to go out there and get 100,000 huts. We're at 16,000 right now. And then we'll start marketing through nonprofits and allowing people to be able to push that and make a little slice of the pie. And that way we'll get our customer base up and away we go. So we've got a long-term plan of how David beats Goliath.
I love that. Seems like most things that fall into that David and Goliath category are grassroots projects, right? They happen through word of mouth, and that's exactly what's happening. So we are up against our last break here. It's really great visiting with you, Bill. If you're listening, don't go away. We're going to come back and talk about what I think is the best of the three. I mean, they're all amazing, but this business, the corporate benefits initiative, is really turning heads. So we'll be right back.
Voice America is on LinkedIn. Connect with us today.
If you're a nonprofit in need of funding, we can help. Certainty Management is a cost reduction firm that also helps churches, schools, sports teams, and other nonprofits raise unlimited zero-cost funding. Best of all, you don't have to sell anything or ask for donations. Call 888-684-3122 to learn more today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, Team, like Mary.com.
Voice America programs are now available on your favorite connected device, including Amazon, Alexa, and Google Home. Through streams with Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio, listening to your favorite show is as easy as saying the show name followed by the word podcast.
Hey, Alexa, play Finding Your Frequency podcast.
If that doesn't work, try adding on TuneIn or on iHeartRadio or on Apple Podcasts.
Certainty Management can help create more certainty in your life with our deep discount health insurance options, even for 1099s, part-time employees, volunteers, and more. Pay less to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your team. Call 888-684-3122 for a free quote today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, Team, like Mary.com.
Voice America Business Network, the bottom line in business.
You are listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Laing. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Welcome back to Finding Certainty. Having a great dialogue with my friend, Bill Hoffmann. So far, we've talked about two of his businesses. He owns several businesses, but the first was his merchant processing. What do you call it? It's not a monopoly for sure, but it is a mega company. You have hundreds, if not thousands, of customers all over the country. We talked a little bit about Zen Delivery. That's changing how food delivery is happening across the nation. And now we're going to talk about what we've referred to 2 or 3 times now, the Corporate Benefits Initiative. Now, we've talked throughout this interview about the value of relationships, how it's one of the things Bill has done over the last 40 plus years. He's built relationships that continue to this day and that have made him millions of dollars over the years and made others millions of dollars. One of the most important relationships, though, is not just between colleagues or between vendors and customers. It's between employers and employees.
Yes.
Employees are always looking for a place to call home. They're a place where they can feel taken care of and they feel sure in their future and they feel protected and they feel loyal. And the number one question most employees have, especially when they're starting, is what sort of benefits do you provide? Well, the Corporate Benefits Initiative is a program where you can, as an employer, if you have 10 or more W-2 employees, you can offer 15 plus free benefits to your employees. Now we'll go into a little bit of detail about what these benefits are, but this is a program that costs zero to the employer. There's zero cost to the employer out of pocket. There's zero net impact to the employee's paycheck. Their net income does not change, but the program is made possible by restructuring their payroll tax, their FICA tax. It's paid for out of tax savings that we help the employer create. The Bill and his company, Crossfire IQ, help create. And it's extraordinary. I love the fact, Bill, that we don't have to ask an employer for a check. We're providing amazing benefits.
Right.
The benefits to the employees and the employers are almost unbelievable, especially when they're not having to pay anything out of pocket for them, right? I mean, how did I do, just as a summary?
You did a great job. There's a legal term we have to use. It's called no net cost. We just can't say it doesn't cost anything because it's an expensive program. What's involved? The difference is we're just moving the way the tax does this, and it's always created. Basically, health insurance has always been pre-tax since 1948. We're offering a MEC policy. MEC in the health insurance world means minimum essential coverage. So it's not your major medical. Now we're going in there and saying, hey, get rid of your Blue Cross Blue Shield, get rid of your Aetna, your United Healthcare, or whatever. We're not telling you to get rid of any of those things. But the truth is, what's happened since the Affordable Care Act happened, costs have gone up, deductibles have gone up, and what they'll pay for has gone down. I mean, we've seen this. I mean, in my own little situation, $900 a month for my Blue Cross Blue Shield. That was 7 years ago with myself and 2 children on it. Now I have myself and 1 child still on it, and it's $2,400 a month, right? So in other words, it just keeps going up. And that's because of utilization. And whenever we use it to go to the doctors, to get lab tests, to order your pharmaceutical, that triggers things. And then the broker comes the next year and says, hey, you got an increase of 12% or 6% or 20%, depending on it is. So Healthcare is kind of a mess. We do have the best healthcare in the world, but it's still a mess and we pay for it. So we created this product called Vital 110 through our CBI, which is Corporate Benefits Initiative. And what it does is we're able to give to the customer. And here's the elevator pitch to the business owner.
Employer.
Yeah, the employer. Hey, listen, if you could offer your employees 15 different benefits that had no net cost to them or you, and you could save $500 per employee at the end of the year on your taxes. Would that be something you'd like me to tell you more about and show you how it works? And then it starts.
Who wouldn't say yes, right, Bill?
Right.
Who wouldn't say yes to that?
But think about this. Now we give them those 15 benefits, and it's teledoc, it's all these different counseling, whether it be marital counseling, grief counseling, anxiety counseling, stress management, substance abuse, all kinds of different things, right? And the teledoc, the unique thing is we actually tie you into an actual primary care doctor over there. So they get your same information. And teledocs has been the way people like it, especially if you have a family and got kids. Instead of taking an hour to go to the doctor's, spending 2 hours there, coming back. No, quick phone call. Oh, they look through the phone into the throat. They say he's got strep throat. Send you the prescription and away you go. So those things work. But if you're using those through your major medical, that's utilization, and the prices are going to go up next year. That's how it works.
There's oftentimes a copay as well.
There's
with
co-pays,
major medical, right?
Right. And what we have is teledoc with no copay. We have over 1,000 of the generic, most prescribed pharmaceuticals, no copay, no out of pocket, at over 16,000 places. And if you're too far away from one, you can have it mailed to you, right? No cost to you, right, from there. And we have an agreement with Quest Labs where you and your spouse can go into Quest Labs 3 times a year, over 2,000 different tests, no out of pocket. And we even have the emergency medical places, not the emergency room, not the hospital. You know, those medical centers that are all around, right?
Urgent cares. Yeah.
Urgent cares, right? We have a whole list of them, and it's on the app, and you pull it up and you see which one it is and so on and so on. And they'll cover up to $150 worth of it. $150. So on most cases,
6 visits per year, right?
6 visits per year. So all of that is at no net cost. And the way they do that is they pre-tax the amount, right? They bring it in there, which lowers that employee's taxes that they're going to pay out. And then they use that amount to pay for these things. And because there's some left over, here's the icing on the cake. We enroll them in a guaranteed issue Mass Mutual. That's a big insurance company. Whole life policy that actually builds a living benefit cash value. And we use those extra dollars to fund that. So, someone my age that had some extra funding all through everything, I might get a $30,000 worth of life insurance, right? But it's building cash value. I'm not paying for any of this. It's mine. It's portable. I can take it with me, right? But somebody that's 30 years old might get a $100,000 life insurance policy, right? And we all know that most Americans are underinsured. Most Americans,
That's right.
The numbers are like 83%. So we give them all these benefits, no cost, no net cost.
No net cost.
We give the employer a reason. So let's say you had 100 employees, right? And I'm doing the math. I always do it even though I know the number. But times $500 is what's the average. He gets to take $50,000 off his end of the year income or his gross profit, right? I mean, that's 50, and he does that every year going forward. That's a powerful tool. So, Mass Mutual, we're doing it with one of the largest, what they call TPAs. You don't have to know all these things. We've got all this, but the bottom line is we're changing the way healthcare. And last thing, and I know we got on a thing, but it's all done on your app on your phone. And what it'll do, it'll read blood pressure, check your heart rate, do all that stuff. Does a biometric thing twice a month. You do that. And it's reading all these things so that, let's say your normal rate is right there. And for the last 90 days, it's been reading it. But this last week, it's been going, it'll send you a message and say, hey, Patrick, is there anything going on? This is the technology, the artificial intelligence sending you a message and saying, hey, what's going on? And maybe it was a sickness in the family and you're stressed out, whatever it is. Or maybe it's something that's telling you, you better get to the doctors and get something figured out.
Better call that free teledoc and have them ask them some questions, right?
and people ask questions about this, but right, what I go, really, Bill, that stuff works. I go, I had to get a sleep, because of sleep apnea, I had to get the CPAC thing, right? Mm-hmm. The first month I had it, I traveled 3 weeks out of that month. I didn't take it with me. I got a phone call from the doctor's office. They said, hey, your insurance isn't going to cover that unless you use it at least 45% of the time. I go, how do you know that? Well, they've been reading it because it's got a sensor on it and it reads it, everything. It does it through the internet. And they knew I'd only used it about 30% of the time. So in other words, technology is making it that we can do things better for our health. Look at your Apple Watch that reads things and stuff. That's all this app does. So you're going to ask a question.
Let me interject one thing because we are almost out of time.
Yes.
People ask me when we bring this up, because it's such an extraordinary program, and they always say, well, how is this possible? I mean, why would they even allow this? And it's a very simple answer. This is a bipartisan program. Both Republicans and Democrats support it. It doesn't matter who's in the White House. It's been around for years. We expect it to be around for many years to come. And it's because if we can help our employees get more healthy today, there will be less illness tomorrow, and eventually the cost of Medicare will hopefully come down. So they're actually working across the aisle, trying to have a little bit of foresight to help eventually help us save money and lower the cost of Medicare. And I mean, we got to do something, right, to reduce the national debt. So if you had to say one thing in the last 60 seconds or so to just summarize the CBI, what would you say, Bill?
Two things. One, it can more than just save the $500 to the employer. It can actually lower their cost on the major medical because they now can have a bargaining chip because
that's right.
We've taken the utilization and moved it off to the Vital 110. But the other thing is, most medical plans are not designed as preventative. It's there once you've gotten sick. This is designed to be preventative and keep you and instruct you. It even has a health score that says, hey, if you went for a walk for 2 miles, your score would go up. So it gamifies it. So people maybe don't park as close when they go to the grocery store. They park a little farther away. All those types of things. We're going to change. I'm going to tell you something, Patrick. We're going to change the way healthcare is done. And you got a chance to make a ton of money and help millions of people.
100%. We're out of time. I will say this, for employers, it helps with recruiting and retention, reduces turnover by 40% on average. Employees, it helps them get more healthy and really take control of their health. If you're looking for an opportunity, it is the most extraordinary residual income opportunity that I've seen in my career. Reach out to us. We'll tell you more. Bill, thanks for taking the time to be with us today. If you'd like to learn more, visit our website, certaintyteam.com. But Bill, always a pleasure. We'll continue with the YouTube version. If you're listening to this, if you watch the YouTube, we'll chat for another minute or two, but we do have to end now. But have a great weekend. Bill, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Everyone out there, we appreciate your finding certainty and making finding certainty a part of your day.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Finding Certainty. We hope you've gained some more insight into how to create more certainty in your own business or nonprofit. Join us next week for another taste of the Certainty Experience. Until then, we wish you greater certainty in all that you do.